Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Daily BizLink. And Jane Cebrynski is back again. And this week we're talking about the power of curiosity. Jane, I'm extra curious. What are we talking about today?
Well, you'll find out. Happy last day of Rocktober. Um, Super happy to be here as always. So let's end this month with a 10 moment.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us are getting ready for Halloween this weekend. And so it's been extra special to spend some time with friends and family in preparation for that. So that's been my 10 moment. Tonight we're carving pumpkins and we have some of my family coming over. So that's a 10 moment for me.
And you've got those three little ones that are going to really make you be present in the moment for sure.
For sure.
So much fun. Well, we talk in our coaching, it's in the language and context of sports. And we watch our film. And the purpose of that tool is to help us look back, a week, not, a year, and just kind of look at things that have happened and showed up for us and ask ourselves the question, what can we learn from it? What can we change? What can we do better? And so I wanted to bring up like a personal incident that happened this week that as I was watching my film, it really was a great reminder to me. And I was having a really in-depth conversation with my son, and it was kind of a hard conversation. And I noticed that I was getting triggered and I was the one who was kind of emotionally getting upset. And what was really beautiful is because, he's only 23. And as soon as he turned his comments into a question and was being curious, because he was like, Mom, no, stop, listen, I really want to know this, so help me understand. And as soon as he did that, immediately the anger in me kind of dissipated. I felt more respected and was less defensive. And it got me to thinking about, the fact that we talk a lot about being curious and being a better listener. And so when he did that, because we know that the power of listening really does dissipate anger, it motivates affection, it alleviates stress. And more importantly, both sides win. Both sides win when we do this, because the person who is getting asked the questions, like in my case, he allowed me to be heard. And again, it dissipated the anger. It made me, feel like he was paying attention to me and that I was cared for. And for him, it created the opportunity for him to learn something instead of assuming something. And so what are you thinking?
Well, I think it's awesome that you were vulnerable enough to actually share that story. And it's funny because people always think because you train in this on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis, that you have it all figured out and that everything, every instance in your life is perfect and that you know how to handle every situation. And even as a coach, we still have to reflect and think through certain situations. And so I think it's really awesome that you're sharing the story about how, even though you're the person coaching other people, that you still have to work through it on your own.
Sure. I'm human. I mean, I'm just like everybody else. I have performance barriers. I have challenges. It's life. It's life. But this really, really helped me to kind of reset because, in this political season, obviously there's lots of differing opinions. And this is so powerful, not only in the workforce, but in our personal relationships, and how we're showing up. And if we can just be more curious, even though we think we know the answer or we know the person so well, oftentimes I think parents fall into this trap with kids. I was notorious for this. I would try to finish my kids' sentences, presuming I already knew what they were going to say. And I'd be like, Mom, no, you're not listening to me. And it's really true. And we do that in the workplace to one another. We make a lot of assumptions. We do it with people we're close to. And so the power of being curious really helps to educate us, helps us teach something. It might teach us something. But more importantly, it sends a message to the other person that I really care about you. I value your thoughts, your opinions. And then it helps that person build their self-esteem, their confidence, and their ability to communicate.
Jane, I'm curious if you have any insight or guidance, when other individuals are starting to ask questions or kind of poke us and we feel like we're starting to get defensive, Is there a way that we can turn that conversation around to positively have it and allow for that comfortable conversation where people can ask questions?
Well, the thing is that that's your self-control, right? And generally what happens is we do start on the defensive. If it's a delicate topic, we already presume that. And so that's an opportunity for, in my case, as soon as he turned it and started asking me the questions, I was able to settle down and calm down because now he wanted to actually hear my opinion. Instead, we were debating, is what we were doing. We were kind of debating. And so it's an opportunity to take a deep breath and then just allow yourself to respond honestly and truthfully. And then, how they choose to receive that is on them. But if we want to practice being more curious and we're not really used to that, especially again, I think, depending on the role we play, whether it's, a managerial role or a parental role, sometimes we forget to ask those questions. And so simply by saying, I'm curious, that's a great way to practice setting the tone. I'm curious, or tell me more. That's another way to engage, like, I want to hear more from you. And another valuable one that I love is, what else? So that's kind of the same thing as telling me more, but it opens the door for an opportunity for the person to communicate.
Well, and it's also important that we continue to speak our truth. And that's one thing that we've talked about. Now, how about if somebody says something to you that you don't necessarily agree with, it heightens those emotions. Jane, what are your thoughts around how to manage that?
So we have an incredibly beautiful and easy tool called All Information is Good Information. It's one of my favorite. It sounds really simple and people are like, okay, so what do I do with it? Nothing. You simply anchor in the fact that all information is good information. So whether you're receiving information that you don't agree with or you don't like, you get to decide how you want to use it. And it also helps dissipate that anger and that defensiveness. So again, you have the opportunity to really, speak your truth, speak honestly. And if you're having dialogue back and forth, then if you both anchor in like, okay, all information is good information, I can agree to disagree with this person, but I can honor them and I can respect them by hearing what they have to say. Because who knows, we might learn something from one another if we just stop and listen a little bit.
So Jane, what's the challenge of the week?
So the challenge of the week is stay curious. So even if your kids show up doing something you really don't like, be curious with inquiry. Why did they do that? I mean, you might really learn something quite valuable. Same thing with your coworkers or when you're talking to higher ups, be curious, ask a lot of questions, and then be open to the responses and anchor in all information is good information. So even if you don't like what's being said back to you or the answers, you can just take that in and it gives you pause and allows you to think about what information you want to use or how you want to respond.
Jane, I appreciate you being here today and having the conversation about the power of being curious with questions and the importance of being a good listener. Jane, look forward to our conversation again next week.
Thanks, Lindsay. Have an awesome, awesome weekend. Happy Halloween.